Okay, today painting Ultramarine Aggressors. I'm just going showing the one, and here he's spinning around looking fantastic with his big red helmet. And we'll get started in just a second. Okay, so I'll start with the Zenithal Prime, and then I'm going to use the airbrush to go into the shadows with some dark blue. Doesn't really matter which dark blue, we just want a nice deep blue for those shadows. And then I'm going with the airbrush from the top over those that brighter white undercoat with some Macragge blue. It's obviously the ultramarine blue, and then after that just getting a very gentle, just at the top areas, a very light highlight with a slightly lighter blue. I think it was Calgar blue that I used for this, but any lighter blue just to give it a nice range from bright to shadow. Then dark aluminium for all of the metal parts on there, these little ammo chambers, ammo straps that he has, and any other metal areas on the model, little details on the power pack and such. So you can see there I'm also getting the hoses just in the back of his leg, and we'll come in and give these some life a little bit later, but for now we just want this nice metallic finish on all these surfaces. And then I thought I wanted to give it just a little bit more life, so giving it a quick dry brush on all those highlighted sharper areas with some ethereum blue. And then I'm going in with some gold onto all the little gold details, trying not to miss any of the little skulls and wreaths and trinkets that he has all over his body. And make sure to be careful when we're painting the edges of those shoulder pads so we don't make a mess on that lovely airbrushed armour. And now Wraithbone, just picking out the skulls and the purity seals. Again, just being super careful not to get any on the armour because it's going to be difficult to fix it as we airbrushed it. But just taking our time, make sure we get all the details that we need so we don't have to come back and fix anything later. And then with some red, I'm just picking out the little ropes he has on all of his trinkets and the wax on the purity seals. And I actually go back and I got the wires on the back of his on the back of him as well that run along the ammo straps. And then for the helmet, painting it in a nice bright white. Doesn't really matter which white, just as long as you've got good control over it. And then I'm painting it with, I think this was Mephiston red, or any mid-tone red, nice and saturated. And then picking out some of the highlights on that later with some brighter red, but not forgetting this tiny little golden skull right in the middle of his forehead. And again, just being careful not to touch any of the edges of the armour that we've worked really hard to bring to life. You can see there, using the same red just to get some of the other details, like these wires on the back, and the little missiles up there on the top of his power pack. Again, super careful, taking our time, tiny brush strokes with a well loaded brush, nice and thin paints so we get into all the areas that we need to with a lovely even coat. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm using some dark brown paint, which is heavily watered down. It's about 5 or 6 parts of water to 1 part of paint. And then I'm just going over the areas that I want to give it a nice brown wash. And what this does is it gives it a slightly more matte wash effect than some of the acrylic washes do. So there's not as much shine. And it looks absolutely wonderful on the gold. And then going back with the original base layer colours, and just picking back out some of those details. So the wash is really held into the shadows, and it really gives a good shape to all of the parts that we've washed. So obviously Wraithbone for the skulls and the seals, and a little bit of the gold back into the shoulder pads and all the other golden areas. And here I am with a much brighter red. I think this was Evil Sun Scarlet. I'm just picking out the details in the helmet and some of the highlights on the purity seals as well. And that extra contrast is just going to draw your attention to those areas as well, those brighter highlights. You can even push it a little bit further. And then Nuln Oil, a little watered down, just over all these metallic parts. Give them that slightly grimy, used feel. And you can see there, it is quite watered down, because you don't want it to be too heavy. And even then, we can come back with water before it dries to move things around and thin them out on the model as we go. Now I'm using some Tamiya panel liner. I'm just picking out some of these recessed areas, and I haven't varnished the model, which means that the panel liner will bleed a little bit into the paint. And I really like this effect. I think it gives it a really gritty feel, and especially in the edges of the shoulder portion, as you can see there, it sort of bleeds a little bit. And I'm coming back in with some very watered down Calgar blue here, I think it was, just a slightly brighter blue on some of those raised areas. I'm just building it up with this very, very watery layer, so that I get a little bit more volume onto the top parts of, especially these curved panels. And now I'm coming back with this is some Stormhold Silver, just to bring a little bit of detail to some of these areas. You can see there on the left side, I've just edge highlighting a little bit onto some of these very high point areas where I want as much contrast as possible, because that's the focal point of the model, around the head and the shoulders mostly. Now I've got this little trio of paints I'm going to use for the base, very watered down with the dark brown all over the base, then a dry brush in the mid brown, and then a very light dry brush with the much brighter, almost yellow brown. But it just gives it a good texture, good feel to the base, and really sets off nicely in the contrast. There's a contrast to the blue of the Ultramarine. Now I'm using the airbrush with some very saturated ink, as you can see there, and it's burnt sienna ink, and I'm going to go underneath the entire model very carefully and very nerve-wrackingly going to apply it to all the shadows. It just brings, just ties it all together, really binds it to that base as well. Then I'm scratching off some of the paint on his feet, removing that toothpick that I've stuck in his foot, drill through the base, glue it to the base, and then I'm just putting an extra drop of super glue on the underneath where the toothpick comes through for a bit of security, and then just edge the whole thing in black. Being careful not to get any onto that base that we've so lovingly dry brushed. Nice edge on the base, and that is the model finished. And he's looking absolutely fantastic. So we'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe.